How's it going, folks? How's it going, folks? Now, this type of video is I'm not anti-children. I'm not anti-baby. I'm a low socioeconomic, and my missus is a low socioeconomic. So that's a bit of background about myself. And yeah, let's begin the topic. So my work colleagues, they all have children, and they're married, and they always ask me, what is my investment? Their investment is on their child, right? Their children. Regardless if it's 18 years of investments or 25 years, kids nowadays, they stay home a lot longer than before. Can up to 30 years old. That is the investment that they are committed to do. Now, a man and a woman are together and to raise the next generation, and by doing that, delivering, by engaging, intercourse, and you have the sperm throughout your genetic blood generation, and whatever the sperm that's selected made it through the egg, that's the person's gonna be. And it is something that human evolution to get to that stage. And back then, when you raise a child, is to benefit you when you get older and look after you. It's more collectivism. In the Western world, it's more individualism lifestyle. And as my individual, for myself, I work in aged care, and I could see, growing old and not having family members visiting all the time, only once in a blue moon, and all that savings, what you did in your younger years, and at the end, you always died alone. So I told them there's no point having kids. So that's a bit of background. Because we're living in this particular era of AI technology, the technological society era. The era that we just passed through, before the coronavirus, the technology was there, but this time will be heavy surveillance with AI. Yes, we do have AI, but this time the AI will be a lot more involved in our personal life. AI before coronavirus was more involved in public, more involved with industrial areas and manufacturers, but this will be on our list. All right, surveillance cameras and things like that, and our daily lives. Even whatever the shops that you used to go to, will minimize workers and replace them by a little touch screen. All right, that's reason number one. Reason number two is, you raise the child to grow up, and especially in Australia, or Western world, is individualism, and it's hard. It's hard to bring a child up in the individualism society than a collectivism. Collectivism is more of a lot more humanity approach, more a family-centered approach, not self-centered approach. And even if you do raise, it's a journey they have to go through. And number three, of course, you lose your freedom as a parenting. Being a parent is one of the hardest things to raise a child, especially the child that you wanted to lecture or wanted them to be in that particular person is the hardest thing ever. Three, we have a very poor attachment on a child, where mother and father is the breadwinner of the family. And with this nuclear family settings, it's not the best of the best attachment, and the child most likely to be rebelled as the age, because of amongst the peers and things like that. Number four, I don't know, is it number four or number five? It doesn't matter. And the intellectual education department, academia, is more leaning towards the females, more social justice course. And being a low socioeconomic, it's tough, even if you want to take them to private school, man, that's a lot of investment. We're talking about $20,000 per year to take your kids to go to, a private school or a Catholic minimum, whatever. So, and number 6 is the loss. You have to maximize and minimize your risk and hazard. For example, these little things do matter. You look at your life a lot more precious, and because you want to be there at all time and maximize your life with raising your child. So by doing that, you take more safety route than risky route. For example, my coworker, even though he lives, for him to take 25 minutes to go on a highway to go to his house, he takes a longer way. He drives more than 35 or 40 minutes to get home, because he doesn't want to come a risk with crazy drivers at night who hits 180 kilometers or 150 kilometers where the speed limit is 100 kilometers. That he value his life as very precious, which means that it restricts your freedom. You think a lot broader. You think about the kids behind if you do pass away. So there's a lot of restriction in your life to maximize. Basically, you can't do fun, you can't take risk and things like that. The only risk that most families, if they have to do, is probably shares. Do trading shares and stocks and things like that. That's money, but when it comes to their life, they wouldn't do it at all. So these are the stuff that I look at it. And even if you do raise your child in the Western world, depending how you raise it, I'm not saying all of them is going to end up, not looking after you or not paying bills or rent to you. It's most likely the collectivism value and culture will be diminished by more than 50%, because they don't understand the meaning on celebrating that certain popular traditional holidays or cultural holidays, or perhaps just in general, understanding why your culture is like, why the tradition is like that. And the family settings is kind of broken, because if you don't link between the culture, tradition, and the social norm in your culture, it's a broken link. And even you try to figure out, it's a bit too late, because you've been too rebel. You're only amongst with your peers. You do what's best for your peers. You do what the Australian or the Western values, because it doesn't really work with the Eastern values. All right. So those are the stuff there's too much. And number 7, you're not sure what the child is being raised. It's tough. Even if it's a disability, or there's some ADHD or things like that. It just brings more financial burden of of yourself and as well as society, and it's tough. And I look after disability, and I see, I'm not blaming the family on giving up their child, but raising that sort of child, man, it's tough, man. I'm telling you guys. So these are the many things. There's the pros and cons. Obviously, the reward, seeing your child, going to school or going to kindergarten, and you cried, and you taking your kids one step away and taking to institution, where back in the days, there's no such thing as school. You stay within your peers, and you grow up as a peer. You learn by working with hands, or labor or things like that. But things back in the days, children was get married younger and have kids younger. Nowadays it's so dysfunctional. Now it's like divorce and just kids custody, and divorce, the kids custody is the most painful thing, because the child that did not do anything wrong. It was the parenting. Somehow the relationship did not meet their expectation, and they have to go through neglect, physical, verbally, psychological, emotionally, financial abuse, and the child does not want to witness that. And now the child is very dysfunctional minded, and doesn't know what's pros and cons. That's the problem of the society like that. So yeah, man, this type of videos is tough, to make, because of this sort of language. And I think, it's tough for many people to swallow, but that's the reality. We're living in a different time. I believe, as a low socioeconomic, yes, we are more prone to religion or having kids, but come on, man, in the future, even look at right now, jobs, youth unemployment rate